Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to NASM Live. My name is Prentiss Rhodes, and I'm here with our producer, Greg, who's keeping us rolling like a fine oiled machine. And I have a very special guest today. And this is why I'm introducing our guest last. And it's because of this person that I am here today talking to you. Without this person, there would be no NASM as it's evolved today. And I'd like to welcome Neal Spruce. So Neal, how are you doing today?
I'm doing as well as can be expected all the way around, and thanks for the introduction and so forth. And I will take all the credit for NASM. I'm just kidding. Okay. Oh, you're the reason it is what it is, but thank you for that introduction. I'm doing great. How about you, Prentiss?
You know what? As well as can be expected, I'm doing well and just adapting to the current situation.
Yeah, we all are.
Yeah, for sure. So let's go ahead and get started because I'm excited. Like I said to you earlier before we jumped on the call, I've seen you in and around the industry. I've popped into your talks at various occasions over the years, but we've never met formally. So for those people who are listening to us right now who may not be familiar, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the evolution or the start of NASM?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, for me, I was just sports is a very important. Sports and fitness was just an important thing to me because it took me out of the world I grew up in. I grew up in a kind of a difficult world with no parenting and lived in different families growing up. But sports and fitness really took me out of that. So football was the beginning of that, and then that led into bodybuilding. And when I realized that sports and fitness has pretty much saved my life, I said, okay, I'm going to commit to do that. So I was about age 24 when I flipped the switch and left that outlaw life. And I said to myself, this is a time where I'm going to do everything I can to, go forward and create something that everybody like I experienced could experience in their life, no matter where they are, and have a better life. So it was sports and fitness for me that really turned the corner, and that was the beginning. And so with bodybuilding, you learn more about nutrition than anything else, because it's not about, as much as we work out more than any other kind of athlete on the planet, whether you're a football player or a basketball player, no one works out more than a bodybuilder does, obviously. We all recognize that nutrition was the more important side of the equation, because the exercise is the trigger event for what you want to happen. Only damages muscle tissue. It doesn't repair it. Only nutrition repairs it. So it's all about that. So nutrition was the very first love that I fell in love with nutrition. And that was the beginning. And so, when Gold's Gym first started, there was only one Gold's Gym in Venice, and they hired me to help grand open all the other gyms around the world because I was still an athlete. And from that point on, we put nutrition programs that I had created in all of these different venues. And that helped build the Gold's Gym brand to what it became, back in the day, back in the late 70s and 80s and early 90s. And then after I retired from bodybuilding, that's when I started my own business on nutrition so I could do it globally to save the world. And that's when I bought NASM. So I bought NASM in the mid 90s because I wanted to connect trainers. And this is big, Prentiss. I wanted to connect trainers to the idea of a holistic approach. I don't want trainers to be exercise instructors. There's very little, you're not going to save the world being an exercise instructor, but you can make a difference if you can give people what they need from a health standpoint. So if you adopt the mentality of prevention before cure approach and to take care of people's health while they have it, that's true health care, rather than what we're in a disease care model today, obviously. We just take care of you after you're sick. You don't take care of yourself before you get sick. And so that's what I wanted trainers to do. That was my impetus for buying NASM, to make trainers become part of that, bring in the nutrition component of my company's Apex Nutrition Analysis, put them together. And that was sort of the evolution of all of it together. And dotFIT is just the evolution of all that. That's just the company we're in today. And I've been lucky enough to have partners, around the world that adopted that same thing. So we built the biggest brands in the world. Between Gold's Gym, we built 24 Hour Fitness, we built UFC, Crunch today, as you know it. And they all adopt that same holistic approach, especially now, that's what people need. So that's kind of the evolution. That was the whole purpose behind it.
So yeah, and that's very important. I'm glad, and thank you for that history, because I think it's very easy, if you don't know where we came from and how the industry kind of evolved into the more holistic approach as we see it today, it's really easy to take all of that for granted.
Exactly.
And not know where we came from. So you talked about about how dotFIT started. Can you just tell us a little bit more about what dotFIT is and what your company does today?
Right.
That's a benefit to trainers.
Yep. Well, we're a research and development firm first. So for any type of fitness programming, but holistic programming, so it includes nutrition and exercise for non-clinical, activities. Obviously we want trainers to be able to take care of people's health when they have it. So by using our platform, trainers have the ability to give people everything they need all the way around. So that's where we're a research and development firm first. But when I say holistic, it doesn't just include your exercise programming, obviously, which is all adopted from NASM, right? But it also includes the nutrition program, which is all evidence-based, which we get from all the top nutrition scientists in the world and put it into a platform that trainers can use to get people to use something that will help them be healthier and maintain their health and get to their goal faster. And then we also took on the dietary supplement side of the holistic approach. There's basically no exception to the rule. Everybody will benefit with the proper dietary supplement integrated properly into menu planning and, of course, exercise and their goal, and especially within the calories that they're allowed in today's world to consume if you want to stay lean. If you want to stay lean, it's not like you can eat 8,000 calories of food and get all the vitamins and minerals you need. It's not going to happen today in today's world. So obviously, we know that almost everybody on the planet should supplement something in order to make that happen. So we took that on ourselves, and we have a particular expertise in the dietary supplement side, Prentiss, and that is that we're a practitioner product, which is why we only associate. We do not sell in the mass market. We stay away from it because there's all kinds of problems in the mass market. The dietary supplements in the mass market, they sell on price, so they compromise the formulas. They don't do all the testing. They don't do any of those things. So they get some bad news, and the press will actually jump on the bad news. They don't jump on good news. They jump on bad news. Where all your top nutritional scientists will tell you that they all supplement, but they only use a practitioner product. So we went down that road to make sure that everything is third-party tested, dosages match their people's food intakes, all of these different things work. So that makes it very special. So now you have a holistic platform, and that's what we do, which is why we are the biggest in the sports and fitness industry, and that includes pro sports. You can see, I think behind me, you can probably see, those are just a small sampling of the teams we work with. They choose us over anybody when it comes to any kind of dietary supplements because they are third-party tested for everything to make sure that the label's accurate, there's no contaminants, and of course, we also match it to food intake. So those are the things that nobody else does. So again, that's what separates us. So we're R&D firm for fitness programming all the way around.
Okay, thank you for that. And let's go down that pathway a little bit. And obviously, we're in a situation where nutrition supplementation is important because you can. I remember the Total commercials as a kid growing up, the Total cereal, about how many bowls of a particular food you'd have to eat to get the whole vitamin package in Total. So you can't eat everything, obviously, especially with a sedentary lifestyle. But given that situation, how does the trainer, if they are allowed to supplement, how do they stay in scope when making these recommendations to their clients?
Yeah, and that's a very good question, an important question, by the way. So I spent 10 years and about $10 million back in the early 90s putting it in the scope of practice of trainers. So what happened was we had a nutrition program I built called Nutrition Analysis back in the 80s. That was the very first one. I was still a giant bodybuilder at that point. You can actually Google me and look at when I was a giant. But because no one would believe that now. Trust me. Even my wife doesn't. She says I'm half the man she married.
As an aside, Neal, I talked to a colleague we have in common, and I did hear the story about you and your spouse and the diminishing shirt sizes. If we have time later, maybe we can get into that.
That's right. That'd be great. But yeah, so what happened was then we had these menus we were giving to the people based on their goal. They would come into our gyms and we would say, here's what you need to eat to get to your goal. We had a computer program. This is when hardly anybody was using a computer in the mid 80s. And so we had a computer program and we would punch in their statistics and their goal, and then we would tell them how many calories they could have and give them menus. And then the dietetics world got mad at us for doing that. So I said, okay, how do I make peace with you guys? Because I can tell you, my members of my clubs, and we have millions of them, the members of my clubs are not going to go to a dietitian after they go to a health club to get their stuff. So I've got to be able to do this. So I met with them for a couple of years. And I had all the dietitians create all of our menu plans and stay within the scope of non-clinical dietetics by having a screening on the front and all that. So we spent a lot of money and a lot of years putting it together and getting the blessing of the dietetics world to say, okay, you guys are spot on and you can do it. And then of course we refer out any clinical issues to dietitians. So that's how we got in the scope of practice of trainers. And by the way, you should know this also: if you're using any other nutrition program, you are liable. Ours is the only one anywhere in the world, for that matter, that has made all of those changes to make it work.
And in the scope of practice. Yeah, that is important to know, because once and I see this a lot, just looking through social media and maybe some of the topics out in fitness seminars about trainers who don't have that education and have gone through that rigor that you just described, saying that they can help one with their inflammation. They've reversed diabetes and those sorts of things. And that's pretty dangerous, because I do come from a healthcare background as well, and it exposes you to so much liability, so many differentials that you can't understand just by looking at a person, head on, face on, without doing all of the other diagnostics that go into that. So let's move on. So you talked a lot about scope. So when we talk about the effectiveness of supplements that are out there for popular consumption, can you talk a little bit about the NSF certification and how the fitness professional can inform supplement choices based on that?
Yep. So we went down the NSF road because we are the largest provider of dietary supplements in the sports and fitness and then sports world. So that includes, your pro teams, college teams, and all those. And we don't give away supplements. They actually have to pay for ours, which is different. Everybody else, when you see that, they have all these signs in their place, they're paying. We don't. They actually pay for ours because it's very complicated to make a supplement that actually works. It's quite different. The dosages need to be correct. You need to document the dosages. You send that in, you put that, and then you send that to the manufacturer. They make it, and a manufacturer can make a mistake. So I'm not blaming a manufacturer. They could make a mistake. Then you have NSF. We use NSF because they're the only ones that have the contract with the NFL, with the MLB and the NBA. NSF is the only certification they accept. There's a bunch of other third-party certifications, and by the way, they are good. I'm not knocking them; they're fine. But we're stuck with NSF on that because they're only accepted by these other teams that we support. So then we have them test it, and that checks the label, it checks the raw materials, make sure there's no banned substances. Number one. Number two, the raw materials have no heavy metals in them, okay, which is very unusual because most of these manufacturers, almost everything you buy in the supplement in the mass market, those supplements have heavy metals. They don't clean the raw materials because they sell on price. They can't afford to do it. We have small margins on ours, so everything goes into making the product rather than trying to sell it through marketing or advertising. We don't market or advertise at all. So that's how they end up. So NSF is huge for us. It's the most important part of what we do when it comes to certifying a product, because all the teams, and both my sons are professional athletes. One actually made it to the NFL. The other one's a professional fighter. So I have a violent family, Prentiss. They of course, they're drug tested athletes regularly. So that's how important it is, not just for me and my family, but the world that we work in. So NSF is a big part of that. And makes every trainer, if it's NSF certified, coming from us, because NSF certification, and they're very clear on this, doesn't mean it works. It just means it's clean. It just means that it follows the rules of manufacturing. We prove it works through documentation, and the documentation on the levels that have shown positive in clinical trials and safe. You put that in the product, you make it, and then you certify that it's actually there. Those are the two pieces to it, and that's what changes us, and that's why pro sports adopted us.
Very good. So you mentioned the NFL and some of the other U.S.-based pro sports organizations. Yeah. Does the NSF do any work, or do they collaborate with the World Anti-Doping Association?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. WADA is definitely they're the ones that kind of police everything. So they give the information to NSF what you need to test for. Okay. You need to test to see if there's any of this stuff dusted into the supplements. So they work very, very closely with them.
Okay, and I know we didn't really talk about this before, but what are some of those things that seem benign if we're talking about walking into a popular supplement store? I won't name any of them, but what are some things that seem benign that could get an amateur athlete flagged if they had to drug test at an event?
Well, almost any of your social performance enhancing products, some of your underboard manufacturers, people that really don't care, they will spike the supplements with steroids. So and obviously, and so to your point, I don't want to throw any retailers under the bus either. But when you look at whether it be Walmart, whether it be Costco, whether it be in GNC, in their defense, they're not testing anything. They're retailers. They're just putting stuff on the shelf. They're trusting the fact that the manufacturers did it right, and the people that handed off the formula, weren't cheating anybody. So unfortunately, there are some bad actors out there, and you don't know which one that's on the shelf there. So that's a real issue, and that is one of the problems that you have in the mass market, which is why we make sure, and Prentiss, this is big for all the NSM trainers, distance yourself from the mass market. Stay away from it, because you're going to be guilty by association if you're telling people, here's a good supplement you can buy, here's what you can do here, because and you can't, you shouldn't. So that's why a practitioner product protects all of our practitioners from that. So those are the things. You don't know what you're going to get. 50% of the this is an FDA report, 50% of everything found in the mass market, so whether it be bodybuilding.com, GNC, whether it be Costco, Walmart, or your favorite store is, 50% is mislabeled. That's not their fault. It's the manufacturer and the people that are producing the supplements. So the point is those are all the problems. And 1 out of 2 is wrong, and then most of them are underformulated, because you don't know the proper dosages that are supposed to be in there. You're just looking for the name of the product. And those are all the pitfalls. That's why I want practitioners to be the ones in between the supplement and the user.
Okay. That is really good information to understand. So having gone through all of that, and I think you answered a lot of the remaining questions, but do you mind if we go, I think this is something that we do. We try to use a supplement to help us achieve an athletic goal. So can you talk to us a little bit about creatine's a popular supplementation. What does the evidence say about creatine and its support of strength training?
Without a doubt, creatine is the most studied of all what we call ergogenic aids, performance enhancing aids. And it has a safety profile second to none, if you will. And efficacy as well. And there are what we call big responders, lesser responders, and non-responders. And a lot has to do with what we call polymorphisms, or your genetic makeup, but also your diet as well. So, and then there's certain activities that you wouldn't want to use creatine, right? There's some that might, the muscle gain might hinder your performance rather than enhance it. So there are things that we're very, very careful about what athletes we use with that. So creatine without a doubt works. But the most important thing, Prentiss, we probably work with certainly more high school, college, pro athletes than anybody, all of our people around here. And we make it very clear. You don't even get to touch creatine until I know you're doing a couple other things right. And one is, let's get your diet and training perfect, right? Let's get as good as it can be. And that is never going to be perfect, but as good as it can be. Then you're going to take a complete multivitamin mineral that has all the known underconsumed vitamins and minerals, because every part of your body is vitamin mineral dependent. And if you don't have that, everything is compromised, including your immune system. And your recovery is going to be compromised. And you're going to have 1 gram per pound of 1 gram of protein per pound of your body weight, lean body mass, every single day, divided 4 to 5 times. And if you're not eating fish, you're going to have you're going to take an omega-3 supplement. But if you're eating fish, you don't need that. So those are the things we tell our athletes before they get a chance to touch creatine. So that's what we call baseline supplementation to enhance recovery, because that's the most important thing for an athlete. Your next workout's only as good as your recovery from the last. And if you don't add that basic supplementation, which is nothing, almost no cost at all, what I just said, then there's no point in doing creatine. It's like putting some big giant Hemi engine in a little tiny Volkswagen. Blow the wheels up. It doesn't make any sense. So you got to recover every day from all the different muscle tears that happen from exercise and hard training. So again, those are the things that make that happen. The protein, your vitamins and minerals make everything happen. And then from there on out, we can add the extra stuff that does make a huge difference if you are competing.
Okay. So can we go down that path a little bit more? Now, if everything that you said, let's talk about 3 different personas. If everything is on point with them, they have their nutrition on point, their training programs on point. Let's talk about someone like an Olympic weightlifter. Since your son's a mixed martial artist and an endurance runner from 10K on up, what are some supplement considerations for each of those groups?
Well, for sure, both groups are identical when it comes to what we call baseline. So they're multivitamin mineral, they're omega-3s. And by the way, fighters like my son, they take 3 or 4 omegas. Even if they do eat fish, they take it for recovery. There's a lot of evidence on recovery. The average person doesn't need that. But an athlete that trains like they do, and he competes internationally, so he fights and trains twice a day. They roll twice a day and run on a regular basis, and so they do need to recover when you're doing that much work. Endurance athletes, the same thing. They need to recover. So with regular baseline, your multivitamin minerals, your omegas, and then we also use an amino acid supplement before and after training, because it's a low-calorie, high anabolic that can actually speed recovery for your next bout. An endurance athlete can use that. So that's what's similar between that group. The other thing that's similar is caffeine. Almost every endurance athlete in the world uses caffeine before an event. We load caffeine at a certain amount of milligrams per kilogram of weight. Okay, it comes out to about, I think it's 2 milligrams per pound of body weight. And then we load them up properly with that, and that definitely increases the time to exhaustion. And the same thing with fighters, you load them with caffeine as well. So that's the ergogenic aid for them. Creatine may not be necessary for, certainly not on the endurance athlete side, but rarely for a fighter either, unless they're trying to go to the next weight class. If they're going to the next weight class and they're going up in weight, then it's okay to go ahead and use creatine with that. But when it comes to a power lifter or someone like my son that plays professional football, the other son, these guys, they use creatine pretty much 2 or 3 times a year in cycles to gain weight. And then they drop the creatine going into the season, except a small dosage to help them recover better. And then they will load up. And then they drop it, because if you drop it, you lose a little bit of your weight, but you keep the muscle and you're faster and your vert goes up. You can jump higher and you're faster at that point. But you still keep a little bit of what we call maintenance creatine to be able to recover better, because creatine helps you recover from every workout a little bit better. So it really depends on the athlete, but power, strength and power, you're going to find creatine and beta alanine is the other supplement that works for that group. And then on recovery time, protein, we're getting the right amount of protein throughout the day, especially before and after a workout. There's some amino acids that will help with that, and of course your multivitamin, mineral, and omegas.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yes, thank you for that. It's very much, I think if I can wrap up what you're saying, it's very much tied to the sport, the profile of the sport, the athlete's individual profile, and their individual goals. So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So thank you for that explanation. So another thing that's popular is the anti-aging movement. We don't want to get old. We want to be Peter Pan. So is there any supplementation that supports that particular process?
Yeah, and you know what? That's a very kind of a tricky question, and let me tell you why. First of all, there's really nothing that's anti-aging, right? So it's almost it's a misnomer. We're going to age. What we want to do is we want to do it the best we can. We want to stay healthy. We want to do whatever activities we did in our teens, we want to do until the day we die. We won't do it as well as we did in our teens, but we still want to be able to do it, rather than our parents carrying us around, our young ones, our next generation carrying us around for the last 10 or 15 years in our life, the way it is for most people today. And that's a lecture I do around the world called Play Span Should Equal Your Lifespan. Here's what anti-aging really, truly, your best is everything we just talked about. Your baseline supplementation from the time you're in the womb. When most people don't know, they took a complete multivitamin mineral. You did, Prentiss. Everyone here, Greg, you guys all did. You did it you just don't know because your mom was taking a prenatal, because it became mandatory by the AMA that you had to take a prenatal multivitamin mineral when you were trying to conceive or conceive. And guess what that did? That wiped out 30% of major birth defects overnight. Why would you ever stop taking one? You don't just come out of the womb and start eating better. Okay, so all kinds of things happen there. Everybody's missing the nutrition that builds our body. So what you need to do is from the day one, you never stop taking a complete multivitamin mineral to match your food, to meet your food intake synergistically, to be able to give your body all the things it can use. If you don't, then as you get older, your body just breaks down. Early aging starts in. So that's really the point. So maintaining your activity and a healthy weight, you don't have to be lean, but a healthy weight, and filling all your nutritional gaps. That's number one for anti-aging. Number one, which is your gaps come from the omega-3s and the vitamins and minerals that you don't just accidentally eat every day the right amount, okay? So that's the easiest, low-cost, inexpensive insurance policy to make sure your vitamin mineral dependent body, which is every part of it is, then it has what it needs to be able to move up-regulate rather than down-regulate. That includes your immune system. The other things now, as you start getting a little bit older, fruits and vegetables supply what we call carotenoids. And carotenoids don't have a recommended level yet, but we know people that eat a certain amount of lutein, zeaxanthin, lycopene, they have better health outcomes at every life phase, including birth. If the mother's getting enough zeaxanthin and lutein, then they're also passing it on to the fetus. They have better ocular development, so eye development, brain development. Same with the omega-3s. I mean, you're not just getting a prenatal multivitamin mineral. Almost every OBGYN now is giving you an omega-3 supplement, because the brain development that takes place the first trimester, third trimester is really important, and you can't do it without DHA. And of course, the vitamins and minerals. So those are all the things that are important, and that happens at every life phase. So the things we've learned recently, so if people are taking notes, lutein, zeaxanthin, lycopene, these are what we call carotenoids, xanthophylls, if you will, and also astaxanthin. These are ones that are part of our skin that will help the skin the photo aging that takes place as we get older. It actually protects that. It actually takes the light and removes it, from different things. So there are some things that you can do orally from a supplement standpoint if you're not getting it through diet. And those things, and most people don't get those through diet. It's very difficult, especially the older you get. It's very hard to extract those. So that's about it, though, when it comes to anti-aging. And then the older you get, here's an important note, Prentiss. The older you get, the more protein you need. So I am half the size of my two sons, right? They're in their mid-20s, and I need twice the protein because my body's resistant to it. It doesn't want it. I've already passed the average life of a human for the first 4 million years on the earth, okay? First four as hominids, right? So I've already passed that. So I'm taking up space I'm not supposed to be here. So the body automatically shuts down in the fourth decade of life. It starts going the other way. That's when hormones start to go down because you're not supposed to be here. So the body is resistant to protein and resistant to exercise. But when you're young, your body does a really good job with all those things because you have to reproduce. And that's just evolutionary talk, obviously. But that's how it works. So again, you need more protein as well. That'll also help stave off the age-related loss of muscle.
Okay, and just one more age-related question, and I know you talked about that, but please talk a little more about the when we talk about decline in cognitive health. There's some of it's due to inflammation, accumulation of the tau proteins in the brain. Can you talk about maybe some practices to help slow that down?
Yeah, the best practices there, and again, I know everybody's just like sticking an ice pick in their eye right now listening to me say this. But if you're continually filling in all your nutritional gaps, that's going to protect the development and the continual maintenance. Remember that. Nutrition creates the human body. Medicine doesn't. That's after the fact. So your best prevention for for cognitive decline is stay active, and exercise is huge. Your brain is like any other muscle. When blood gets flowing in there, good things happen. Exercise is a huge component of that. Number one, okay. Number two, plug all your gaps, and you know how to do it. I've already said it 100 times. Plug your nutrition gaps. Eat the best you can. Maintain a good weight, but do brain exercises. The second you give up on using your brain, as soon as you retire from the world and, next thing you know, you're watching TV or you're doing this and you're not do word puzzles, keep the brain active, do whatever you can as you get older. Keep it, I'm 68 tomorrow, by the way. And, if there's one thing I go, yeah, it is. Yeah. Thank you. I sit there and I go, I got friends that are retired. And I know they made a lot of money and stuff. So I go, what do you do when you're retired? What does that mean? Are you retired from life or whatever? I'm just getting started, in my work. Obviously, everybody wants to do fun stuff and stuff. And this is fun for me. So, that's what's going to happen though. If you let your brain retire, I don't care how much you exercise. It might stave off a little bit, but you got to keep it active. It's like use it or lose it.
Sure. Absolutely. Wanted to ask you one final question, and this is about sleep. And in one of my jobs at NASM is I'm the product manager of the corrective exercise course, and we brought in the piece about recovery, and sleep is king. But we don't do it all that well. So what are some things in your experience that can help the individual with poor sleep?
Yeah. And and again, obviously I'm not a sleep expert, but sure. I will tell you this, and I'm working with thousands and thousands, of people when it comes to, their health. For sure, one is what we absolutely know is that people that exercise sleep better. And a lot has to do with what time of day you exercise and putting the body into a place where it's recovering and it actually wants to sleep. So that helps. So we keep that in mind. The second thing, obviously, keep yourself in a healthy weight. People that are overweight do not sleep well. They have sleep apnea. They kind of choke when they snore. They get up, and of course that changes the appetite hormones. They end up eating more, and all these things. So there's issues there too. So keep a healthy weight, exercise, and again, pretty much the same advice we've been giving all along. And eat the best you can. But there's a couple other things. Obviously, and especially today, the high stress levels. We live in a world now that my generation didn't grow up with that same type of stress. Now I might have, because I lived in kind of a different world, poverty and so forth. But but that doesn't bother you as a kid. But nowadays, there's just so many activities, there's so many things, so many distractions. People have high stress levels. They should start thinking about meditation a little bit. Now, I have my own way of meditating. I have my own way of kind of getting myself, my mind clear. And everybody has their own way. But there's some simple things that you might be able to do. And that would also help release the stress so that you may sleep better. Because when you are stressed, it's very difficult to go to sleep. And I think that's the only other thing I would add that people probably don't already know. Maintain your weight, exercise as much as you can to a certain extent, right? Where it's comfortable, that helps you sleep a little better. Eat the best you can, fill your gaps. But then meditation is the one thing I might throw in there that other people might not say.
Okay, thank you. That is actually very helpful information, and I could listen to you say it 101 more times today, because that point bears repeating. We all need to hear it. I think we lapse a little bit given the stress that we have and just in today's situations. So very good advice. And one more thing. So we're in different times. We're sheltering at home. We can't get out to the gyms like we used to. We have all of this available nutrition just sitting in our homes and no place to. We have a lot more calories and fewer opportunities for expenditure. So do you have any advice for our fitness enthusiasts or our athletes on how to maintain their body composition just based on our current restrictions?
Yeah, I know. And that is the very common question that we get. I mean, and really the only way to kind of do that is, everybody needs motivation in order to continue to progress on a goal. So whatever your previous motivation was might have been diminished a little bit because of the way the world is today. So just set a little weekly goal right now of what you're trying to accomplish. Record your food. That's a big one. Anytime you can record your food intake, and then just don't fill the house full of all those things. Do the best you can to kind of keep your whatever you're carrying in the house that would tempt you, try to keep that out. That's one. And other than that, but there's plenty of ways of using body weight if you can't get to a gym. And there's plenty, and of course, outside is the best place for you. Get some sunshine and fresh air. So, moving around there, you can do that. And in body weight, you may not be able to keep, if you're very heavily muscled, using body weight and exercise may be a little more difficult. There's plenty of ways to do that. There's lots of virtual training. All our gyms are doing virtual training right now. We have a virtual training platform for trainers, so they can do that. And there's things you can do at home. My wife, she does Pilates at home now because our Pilates studio is closed. She does it right there. So there's a lot of ways of maintaining health and fitness. But as far as lifting weights and you don't have weights available to you, that use body weight, whatever you can. But as far as nutrition goes, just that's the tougher one. Because if you're not, working full time and your day's not filled up, it's very easy for people to just kind of get distracted and eat something without even thinking about it. We call that, sort of mindless eating. Be careful with that. But, make a plan out. Make a plan out and find something new to motivate you. What is it? When you come out of this, you're going to be that much better. I got a couple of friends that actually lost 20 pounds during this. Now, most people gain 20 pounds. But I got a couple of friends that did because they set that goal. So think about that. Set a goal. Do something different during this period rather than just woe is me.
Okay. Thank you for that advice. And it's very timely, very important. So we are at the end of the hour, Neal, and I want to thank you for everything that you provided us today. And before we go, did you have anything else that you wanted to tell our audience? Any new developments with your company? Anything that you wanted to offer?
Yeah, we are actually, we're actually building, and of course, my affection will always be for NASM, and of all the brands that I've participated in and built, NASM is always the one that's dearest to me. Thanks to all you guys and what you've been able to do with it. So we are building a platform for trainers because the world's going to be different. Let's face it. What's going to happen in the gym business is going to contract. So your big boxes will contract, as we've already seen, the ones that have gone, declared bankruptcy, and they're thinning out all the way around. They're, but eventually we'll get back. Who knows when? But we do know that everybody, the closest thing to a vaccine, right, is exercise and nutrition. There's no question about that. No one argues that. I don't care who it is. No one argues that. Well, that's what a good gym provides. It supplies good nutrition, and it supplies exercise. So they will open again. Everything's going to be okay as far as that goes. But in the meantime, trainers are going to be bigger than ever. So this is the time you want to become a trainer, because there are virtual platforms that we're building one that is second to none. It actually will show you how to find a trainer. So the entire population, how do you find a trainer that can give you what you need? How can you meet them in an outside, in a different spot if you want to, or how can you do it virtually because they have these credentials? So we're finishing that. We'll be launching it in about a week or two. And that's going to be huge for all trainers. And anybody that wants to be in this business, this is a great business to be in, because personal training is going to double or triple. That's what's going to happen, because the gyms are going to contract and personal training is going to double or triple. So you're in the right industry right now. And NASM is one of those great places to be on the forefront of all of that. So your guys are going to have something very, very, very special here very soon.
Okay. And for those listening, when this launches, what steps do they take to invest in this platform?
Yeah, it's nothing more than a very minor subscription. We already have a subscription to a dotFIT Elite, and I think NASM, there's going to be so many people that are almost grandfathered into it, right? Just because it is, one of my companies that I've been a part of for so many years, partnered with, and obviously owned it as well. But so they're going to definitely have access to it right off the bat. And then we don't have a landing page for them yet, but it'll all be set up, and you guys will be able to communicate to them when the time comes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Neal. As I said, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm glad we got this opportunity to speak. Hopefully one day we'll get the opportunity to meet in person. And thank you, Greg, for running the show today. And thank you to everyone who spent time with us today. I hope you got as much out of this as I did, and we will see you next time.
Great. Thank you, everyone.